Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Dr. AMBA, for having me today on this wonderful summit festival. I guess it's more of a festival than it is a summit, but great idea because the idea of manifestation and abundance is never old. And I feel that regardless of how many things that we've done, read, experienced, we can never get enough tips, insights, and perspectives on getting back into that field of abundance. So a little bit about me. I'm the founder of Magic Sauce Media. That was my consulting firm for many years, where I worked with Fortune 500 companies and startups in the technology, lifestyle, and wellness space. And for about 30 years, actually helping them really get their name out there into the limelight. And then more recently founded Blue Soul Media, which is a combination of my work through branding for 1,000 years and PR with the stuff that I'm doing right now in consciousness and spirituality. So I used to help entrepreneurs for many years get their name out there, whether it was helping them with a TED Talk or literally getting onto CNN or Good Morning America. And as you can imagine, it was intense, right? It was like, there was a lot of just being in the limelight. And so things were actually in flow for me in many, many ways because I was around a lot of influential people. But it really wasn't until I went into that internal inward journey that I realized the true power of manifestation and abundance in a different way. And I'd like to talk about that a little bit because, my journey into really that discovery of true abundance came from, exploring both outward and inward. And by outward, I mean that I've traveled around the world to 95 countries and I've lived in 11. And so I've worked with and explored many different traditions, you could say. And then went through, like all of you watching, have gone through a dark night of the soul. And it's usually at that end of the dark end of the soul that we go on the inward journey. And that's when we really discover who we truly are. And so that's what I'd like to talk about today is that soul self, right? The soul self, because from that soul self, right, which is not the small self or the wounded self or the ego self, the soul self knows how to manifest in every single moment because it just is, right? That soul self that we are, it emanates what is. So, I'd like to really talk about the soul, the multidimensional nature of the soul, and how that leads us into leading an abundant life, right? In all aspects of our lives, whether that's our health, our relationships, money, of course, but really just feeling that in every ounce of our body so that when we show up, we're not showing up from that unworthy place. Because one of the things that I liked about the topic of this, Dr. AMBA, I'm really great that you brought up self-worth. Because, self-worth affects nearly every woman I've ever met across every single continent that I've lived on and traveled to. And it doesn't matter how successful that we are, right? There's a wounded self that we have, which is, I call it the false self or the small self, because it's not true. It's based on a series of belief systems that we have. So if you're older than 40 and you're watching, you're probably going to know the work of Esther Hicks, right? And she always spoke about the vortex, and they were known, right? Esther and Jerry Hicks were known for many, many years of being the couple that, you'd go to their workshop, you'd watch their videos, and it was all about getting into that vortex. So, and I love that word because it really translates well to what I would say the modern terminology is for that, which is really our energy field, right? It's the quantum field, it's the biofield, it's our energy self, it's our multidimensional self. That's really what that vortex is. And because we are energy, right? We are all energy. And so when we realize that we're all energy, having a human experience, then everything shifts in our field, everything. So you might be wondering, what does energy have to do with manifestation? Well, absolutely everything, right? Everything, because we are mirrors to the outside world. And so if we are energetically emitting self-worth, I'm not good enough, I don't know, I'm uncertain, then that's exactly what we're going to get back. Or maybe I'm worthy enough, or maybe I'll get that new job, or maybe I'll find that great partner, or I want to find that great partner. These are all words of deprivation and words of really that low self. So we need to shift out of that field into a field of abundance in order to create. So, this comes from, when we think about it, it's really accumulated trauma, or as we like to say, and some of the spiritual circles, they'll call it collective consciousness, right? And so we've been plugged into this collective consciousness grid of trauma, of self-deprecation, of needing to follow other people's rules of how things need to be. And that's kept us small. It keeps us from a place of constantly second guessing ourselves, right? And in the work that we do, it's amazing to me that there are people who are channelers and psychics and, and also scientists and academics who are already abundant. They're out there, they've written books, and yet they want a second answer. They want to know that what they're feeling is true, right? And the real key is what's true for you may not be true for someone else. And that's where we really have to trust our intuition or our innate wisdom. At IANS, the Institute of Noetic Sciences, they call it your noetic blueprint. Whatever you want to call it, it's our soul self, right? That's trusting the internal wisdom that we already have. And until we get to that place, manifestation isn't going to happen. It might happen little blips here and there, and you get like these little blips, but it's not sustainable. So we've got all of this conditioning. We've got programming of our institutions. We've got religious dogma that most of us have fled from, regardless of whether we're in the East or the West, though I dare say that I think we've been more traumatized in the West, because in the East, they're very connected and they know that we're interconnected to everything. And we've got social media and we've got movies and we've got all this programming that's constantly locking us into this grid of mass consciousness. So, this morning, and I don't think there's ever an accident because I believe in synchronicity, and, I just ran across, I don't think I've ever seen it. I ran across a clip on social media where Kevin Costner got up and gave a talk at Whitney Houston's funeral, and I hadn't seen it before. But I kind of listened to it this morning as I was making tea, and he talked about how when she got that role with him in the film, how she didn't think she was good enough. She was second guessing it. She wasn't pretty enough. It was everything about from how she looked to not having her acting abilities to, the list just went on and on and on. And he said that when he went to her trailer after she did makeup and finally she was committed to the role, that there was still this self-doubt. And I think about that because we've all seen the film. If you haven't seen the film, you have to see the film. I mean, it's quite old now, but of course she shines and she's beauty and she's radiant. She's amazing. And she's not only more than, good enough. She's great. She's fabulous, right? But we don't always see that. So someone even who's shown to the world, like Whitney Houston, had self-doubt and self-esteem issues. So when you think about that, and that's the mirror, that's the media that's emanating to us in the world, it naturally makes sense that we're not going to feel good enough or worthy enough, right? We all face this, men and women, we all face this. So I don't want to just say that As women, we deal with this, but certainly I do want to point to that because it's been drilled into us under the arc of patriarchy, which has been around for 3,000 years. And if we had another hour, that's one of my favorite topics to explore. So if we had another hour, don't get me started on the rise of the patriarchy. So, from that place, unfortunately, we have inherited, if you like, it lives in our DNA, right? It lives in our energy field that's passed on from generation to generation. So we have this trauma in our energy field, and this is not where pure flow and manifestation is going to take place. It can't. So it's only when we step into our soul self, or I like to say our God self, our Godde, God self, our energy self, not our false self, not our wounded self, our ego self, or our small self. So how do we get there, right? How do we live in that field every day? We've all had snippets of it here and there, right? Where we felt that pure joy. Athletes call it living in the zone. Well, it's that pure blissful moment where everything's in flow, right? I think I heard a speaker earlier on who was talking about, or maybe Dr. AMBA, it was you, where you forget time. I used to, I'm going to show my age when I say this, but I used to be in the dark room when I lived in London. This was well before digital photography. And I'd be in that dark room until 3 or 4 in the morning, and I just lost time. I had absolutely no, that's in flow, right? I see Terry's here, who's a friend. It's good to see you, Sunshine. She's an amazing artist, right? So we know, right? If we're an artist, it could be gardening, wherever it is, that pure flow, that's when we're stepping into our soul self. That's when we're getting snippets of it, right? Is when we're in flow, and we trust that innate wisdom that we already have. And one of the first ways that we need to do that, to live in a place of pure flow every day, is to get out of our linear programming and our linear thinking. And this is this illusion of separateness, right? Maya, as they call it, in some traditions, right? Where it's black or white, too fat, too thin, male, female, or anything in between. And once we're in that polarity, that place of polarity, we're living in a really small box, because there's no opportunity for mystery and magic up here when we're constantly comparing one over the other. Not only is it a restrictive place to live, but it's polarizing, it's divisive, it doesn't tap into the interconnectedness of what human beings are as energy, right? It doesn't allow for any of that, and it certainly doesn't allow for what I would call sustainable manifestation. So I'll talk about just a few steps that I feel, not necessarily in this order, but it's this order for me. And the first one is realization. We have to realize that we are tapping into a set of belief systems that are false, that are not real, that are illusional, that are somebody else's belief systems that we've adopted, and they simply aren't ours to carry, right? And it might sound cruel because, we'll do anything to feel love. And if we have a family member who's trying to hold us back because we're glowing too brightly, or, emanating too loudly, right? They're going to feel separate from us. And so they're going to do anything they can to get us back into their vibrational state of being, right? And we can love them, serve them, dance with them, but we don't have to go to their energy field, because that's not how we're going to create. So number one is realization, which is different than awareness, by the way. Realization is, aha, I have this moment. Aha, I see that I keep going to that place again and again. That's the realization that we are whole and complete as we are. Nothing is broken. And then the second piece is that awareness, right? And that's awareness of the belief systems, which takes it a step beyond realization, because awareness is in every moment. So I'll give you an example. When you realize you're going into a spiral place, and how do you know when you do that? You know that you do that when someone gives you advice from it could be a girlfriend, it could be a mentor. They give you advice and you find yourself saying, I've tried that, or no, I've done it all. I've done everything, nothing is working. Or, there's an obstacle in the field. And when you have that obstacle, no flow can come in. So that's how you're going to be aware. And you want to do that in every single moment of the day. It can be in the Starbucks line. It can be when you're in the car and you're frustrated. That awareness is the key that's going to get you to pause, step back, and do a reset. We have to do a reset. It's Pavlov's dog all over, right? It's doing the reset in that moment. And then, right, and I know that May talked about this earlier, and I'm a firm believer in all of this too. And Gabor Mate also talks about this, trauma expert, right? We cannot move beyond into healing until we release the trauma. So we have to have the awareness. We have to have the commitment too, of course, but the awareness leads to the commitment. And then that trauma release needs to happen. And I think, and I'm not a trauma expert, and I don't profess to be a trauma expert, but what I will say, and I believe in good mental health and care and, traditional psychology as well. I absolutely do. But I believe that we can get out of this trauma much faster than we've ever thought possible with a commitment to letting go and surrendering. So it's releasing the ego self. It's literally surrendering. This trauma release is surrender. And I know it's a tough word. It's definitely a tough word for the masculine, but even for the feminine, it's like surrendering into what? It's letting go of what, right? And it's fearful. It's kind of scary when we let go, because that ego self, that's kind of gotten us to where we are, and maybe has even made us successful as an author, teacher, or leader. I mean, I was certainly successful in the technology industry. I was saying no to clients and made a lot of money, and like private jets would like show up miraculously when I least expected it. Life was in flow. And, and I won't say that I wasn't happy, but I will say that I wasn't living purely from a higher consciousness of that interconnectedness. I danced with it often, but I wasn't living there in that spiral every single day. So that's the one piece, right, that is really, really critical to, allowing yourself that surrendering. So, you can find yourself, a quiet place and just speak out loud. I am whole and I am complete. Nothing is broken. I'm a divine being of light. I'm a divine being of energy. And I'm here on this earth plane to create mystery and magic and joy and love. Now, those are words for me. So what might be helpful for you to do is pick 4 words that resonate with you, because mystery, magic, joy, and love, though they're amazing, positive words, they may not resonate with you. Something else might resonate with you. So play around with those words, right? I'm whole and I'm complete. Nothing is broken. I'm a divine light of being. I'm divine light of energy, here to create. What are your 4 things to create? And then speak out loud also, I am grateful for everything that is in my path. I am grateful for everyone in my path, even your in-laws who drive you crazy. They are here to teach you, believe it or not. So I am grateful for everyone in my path. We are powerful exactly as we are. Now, here's the trick about this. You're probably thinking, yeah, I've done the affirmations, done that, doesn't work. It might work for a little moment. And, as Bruce Lipton likes to say, if you say the words, it's like on a broken record player, right? Like unless it's released, those words can't get in. They just can't get in. So that's why the piece about trauma release is so important beforehand. But here's the cool thing about doing this exercise once you've done that release is that our subconscious doesn't know the difference. The brain doesn't know the difference. So when you're telling it that, you can even, first of all, I'll say be gentle on yourself, be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up if you're saying it and thinking, I don't really believe this, because the mind will catch up to the brain and it's going to create new neural pathways, right? So you can read up on the latest research on neuroplasticity of the brain, super profound, not my expertise, but it works in the practices that we do, because those new neural pathways are creating new connections of mystery, magic, love, and joy without you even realizing it, and your mind's going to catch up. And then the fourth piece is the heart place. So I mostly work in business and I work with consultants, but together with my partner, we do a lot of spiritual work, and he's a full embodied channel. And when we work with these guides, they speak often about this heart place, that they can't heal, they can't create, they can't do anything unless we're in our heart place. What I like to say is I am who I am, right? That place of higher consciousness. When we're in that space, then things start to melt away. So, you don't have to meditate, by the way. A lot of times people will say, I've tried meditation, it doesn't work for me. If you can meditate and sit in a quiet place for even 10, 15 minutes a day, we would highly recommend that, because in our work, we find that that really brings us into a theta brain place, and things really shift when we do that. But for some people, that sitting piece doesn't work. And so if not, don't make yourself wrong again, okay? Because this is the whole thing about, you need to love yourself, right? Love yourself, self-love, it starts there. So if you don't like to meditate, don't be like, can't do that either. Get out into nature, right? This is a really incredible way to get connected to the I am consciousness, the universal consciousness, that vortex field where manifestation takes place. She's a living, breathing essence. Gaia can guide you, right? And if this feels weird to you men, just trust that when you start working with Gaia, so much magic is going to happen in your life. It's just going to blow you wide open. Ask for her guidance just like you would a guide or a coach, right? Because the lesson she imparts is that the interconnectedness of all living things. So then I'm just going to move into 3 last points and then I'll close. Intention is the next phase. And that's once you're in that field of energy. Nothing can get created unless you're in that heart space, because that's the oneness space where you're intending from a place that's bigger than you. It's got to be beyond you, right? And so whatever that intention is, of course it's going to serve you if it's serving the all, right? So you'll be in a deprivation, mindset if it's just about you. Manifestation can't happen when you're not feeding the collective. You feed the collective and you feed you, right? This is the problem with politics today, right? We need to feed the collective, and it trickles down to all of us, because that interconnectedness, it's kind of that feeling of when you're looking at your sister or your brother and you see yourself in them, then right? Not only is healing taking place back and forth, but that interconnectedness. So that intention, right? Because we're all creator beings. We are truly creating in every single minute of the day. Quantum physics proves this, right? The observer and the observable, they're interconnected, the entanglement of all living things. We are subatomical particles, right? We're waves. We are all of it. We are part of the universe. We are the universe. So once you realize that and you're doing it from that intention field, then things start to shift. I like to think of it as a ripple. When you put that intention out there, when you're in the field, it creates a little ripple. And then this is when the magic starts. Then we get to create. That's point number 6. It's my favorite one, creatrix energies, right? So the creation space is that field of abundance. We start from the heart. We intend and we're intending from the heart space for the betterment of all, for service. And because energy is energy, the universe matches our vibration in every single moment. That's just how it works, right? So it plays with each other, it dances with each other, and the cosmos is the same, right? And so, you know, it's interesting because when we channel, and we do use the word guides, when my partner channels, we do use the word guides, but guess what? The guides are also you, your higher self. So when you're channeling or whatever you're tapping into when you're in creation mode, you're tapping into your higher self. And that higher self, think of it as like an antenna, right? Because the brain consciousness lives outside of the brain. It's not part of the brain. Think of the brain as an antenna that's connecting to the all that is. So when we step into that heart space, that's our higher self. The antennas go out. We're connecting to the universal consciousness, the all that is, the I am who I am, and we can bring it all in. But when we're in that place of lack of, we're bringing just more lack of into us. So this is the time where we get to do the fun stuff. We get to create our vision boards, and we envision what we want to see as if it's already there. That's the point where we're visualizing it as it is. See it, feel it, taste it, breathe it. It's not, I want a bigger house. It's not, I want a loving husband or wife. It's not, I want the job of my dreams, right? Because want gets us more want. So we envision it, but we feel it. This is the most important thing I can impart. You feel it as if it's already so. It's already happened, right? I have a beautiful house that it supports me and embraces me in every moment, where I can have friends over and pure joy flows. So I added the friends over where pure joy flows, because what that does is it expands it out to someone beyond you. You're manifesting it so you can do service for good for somebody beyond you, the community at large, right? So whenever you're having that intention into creation, you want to feel, sense, and taste it as if it's already so, but it's not just for you, right? If you are desiring a relationship so that you can feel nurtured and wanted and loved, that's allowing you to step into a bigger space and to give and contribute to the world. Does that make sense? Everything's interconnected. So the last point, because I don't know how much time I have left. The last point, okay, good. The last point is allowing and receiving. If we don't allow all of this to come into our field, we're putting a blockage, right? It's a blockage in the field. And so you've done all this great work, steps 1 through 6, right? Everything's starting to come in, the intention, you put the ripple in, you're starting to see a little bit of magic happens. How many times have you seen this? It's funny, Tony Robbins taught me something years ago, and I'll never forget it, because I think it's one of the best visualizations that I've ever gotten from all the zillion teachers I studied with, because it just makes sense, right? I don't know what he called it, but it was a diagram of a figure 8. I call it the figure 8. But, you know, he would show this figure 8. And the idea would be that you're climbing, you're moving towards success, whether it's health is getting better, relationship getting better, career is getting better, you're climbing up that, you get to the top, and guess what? I'm not worthy enough. I don't know if I can do this. Oh my God, they're offering me another $100,000. How am I going to live up to that? And then all of that trauma stuff kicks in, and guess what happens? You self-sabotage. And guess what happens? Bang. you go down the figure eight, and then you're back on the bottom. And then you go through your dark night of the soul, and hopefully you don't keep repeating the figure eight over and over and over again. However, so many people do, because we see it, and we see it all the time. So I just love that analogy, because you can kind of see it when you reflect back and look on your life. You can probably see these moments where you get there and it almost feels too good to be true. And you're like, holy shit, am I worthy enough for this? Can I handle this, right? Maybe there's someone better, or, all the what ifs start to come and play in our psyche. And, it's the noise. It's the noise in the field, right? Bruce Lipton talks about it. Everybody talks about it who teaches this stuff. They just call it different things. And then we self-sabotage. So this is the part where we need to allow and receive, even if we don't believe it, right? Because cognitive dissonance comes into play, where it doesn't make sense and it descrambles our thing. And we're going to do anything we can to go back to that comfortable place of a lower vibration where we've lived most of our life. And that's not where we want to play. We just did steps 1 through 6. We want to be at 7, the allowing and receiving. So it's super important that once you get to that place, you're not up here at the top of the figure 8 and you're about to self-sabotage. You don't want to do that. You want to say, yes, universe, send me more. And I love when I came in earlier, Dr. AMBA was talking about, I see that there's going to be 5,000 people in, the field. But then she also said, well, that's even a limit. 5,000 is a great number. We'd all be happy with that. But even that's a limit. So when you say 5,000, you're putting a ceiling on it. 5,000 or better, or whatever is going to serve the greatest good. So that's when you're taking the ceiling off. So I do believe that you want to be specific, and I heard this earlier too, because I concur with that. You want to give the universe something to play with. If you give it nothing, it's like it can't reverberate back to you, right? The resonance field can't come back to you. So you got to give it something, but you cannot be glued to the outcome. This is the most pivotal piece, because if you're like, it's got to be done this way, or I visualize a partner in this way, or even your health in a specific way, right? That you're not going to be healthy, whole, and complete again unless all the pain is gone. I mean, I have pain 24/7 in the lower back, right? But I'm whole and complete, and I deal with it and I manage it. But if I said the only way that I can see myself as healthy, if that's a condition, then guess what? The condition gets in the way of living your truest and best self, right? The real vision would be, I'm not triggered by it. It doesn't bother me. I can still move throughout my day. I'm still happy, joyful, and living grace. That's the outcome. It's not the ego self. It's not what the ego self wants. Maybe some pain is there to remind you that we're human. Maybe some pain, emotional or physical, is there so that you can be compassionate and empathetic to others and realize that they too, right? You have more empathy when there's pain. Aya Afo, I don't know if you know her. She's an amazing African-American trauma practitioner, and she spoke at Wisdom 2.0 recently. And, I heard her speak. And in fact, on our one of my travel magazine's website, YouTube station, there's a little bit of her talk that you can listen to for free that I shot from the front row. And she talked about, if I hadn't gone through the muck, I wouldn't have been able to embrace the other person as if I had gone through the muck, like if I had not had some sorrow in my life. So just remember that when you're going through this process of releasing, heart place, realization, awareness, the releasing, the surrendering, getting into the heart space, which is that field, doing your intention, and then finally creation. You're going through all of these phases, right? Then you allow and you receive with gratitude. In other words, we're mirroring everything. So if we mirror to the universe and say, thanks for getting me here, and the ripples and all of this like fun dancing stuff that I got to do along the way. And I started feeling little tastes of abundance here and there. And then when the big stuff came, which is whatever, the 10,000 person workshop or festival that you want to have, or the amazing relationship, or your health is improving, and then you go back to not feeling worthy, that's not how it works. That's just not how it works. So you need to be, yes, thank you, universe. Oh my goodness, thank you. I receive with abundance and care and grace and gratitude. And I'm so thankful for this path, and show me more. Like, get curious, show me more mystery, show me more magic, show me more joy, break it wide open, like blow my brains out. That's what you want to feel. You want to feel the tingles, right? Because it shifts the whole vibrational field. And as May was talking much more esoteric earlier on, but I understand the language. She talked about going from 3D to 5D. All going from 3D to 5D all it is. We're not leaving another earth plane. We're simply moving into a vibrational field that is matching a higher vibrational field. And so all of 3D is still happening around you, but you don't even see it. I mean, a great analogy would be, there's a couple of ants that are going by, and they're fighting with each other who's going to get the crumbs on the floor. And you're kind of watching this, right, in amazement. But, you're probably just going to walk past, and it's really not going to affect you. That's what it's like once you move out of 3D. It's literally like that. It's like nothing triggers you anymore. You just flow in and out. And there's like this constant feeling of, I am who I am, right? That inner knowing that you are who you are. So anyway, with that, this is the allowing and the receiving. And you want to also, when you're allowing and receiving, remind yourself as it's coming in to stay humble. Because once it starts coming in, sometimes I pinch myself, the things that have happened to me in my life, and I can't even believe it, right? That I've worked with celebrities and I've traveled all over the world, and I've had this like just really rich and abundance life. You constantly have to remember humility and where you've come from, because if you don't, you won't stay in the field. I guarantee it. You won't stay in the field. So just remember, I'm here to help others. I'm here to be of love. I'm here to be of service. And I'm here to contribute to the world at large, because that's why we're here at the end of the day. That's why we're here. And when we do that, the ripple is like this, right? It's not this little ripple that we're creating ourselves, because, it's mirroring back. And so the collective consciousness just gives you more love, service, and abundance, because really that's what we want, right? It's love. It's love and connection. It's not money. It's love and connection. So anyway, yeah. So that was the last thing I was going to mention, was gratitude, gratitude, gratitude.
Love, love, love.
Love, love, love,
Love,
love, love,
love,
love.
love.
Hopefully I didn't
Love,
go
love,
over.
love.
And
Well,
I
we're still.
didn't mention the
Go
2
ahead.
free gifts. Should I
Go
do
ahead.
that now?
Yes, I'm just talking to you while you're doing it.
Okay, so I guess this is the last bit that you told me to do. We'll offer 2 gifts today. One is a course that we did on abundance and manifestation, and we're going to offer that for free. Here's the link. I did not set up a code or anything like that yet, so just email me, info@bluesoulearth.com, and I will set you up with a code to get that course for free. There's 70 lessons in there, and it's a video course. I know, 70 lessons. It's pretty long. It's a course that I did with my partner, Anthony. And then the other thing that I think would be really relevant to the topic today is letting go of old belief systems. And that's a guided meditation. Same thing, just email me and just mention Dr. AMBA's Abundance Festival and I will give you the code to get both that guided meditation, which is on video, it's video and audio. And then of course the Manifest Your Spirit is a video course of 70 lessons.
Wow.
So you can, so you can learn more about us at three places, bluesoulearth.com. And studywithspirit.com is where all of our pre-recorded courses and meditations are. And then also there we have 2 membership programs where we meet online in a forum like this, a very sacred container. And one is really on wisdom and esoteric teachings, really the Gnostic teachings. That's one membership program. It's only $33 a month, and the other is only $22 a month. And we meet twice for a couple hours, so it's live. The other one's called Magdalene Sisters, and that's for women only. Sorry, gentlemen. This is a sacred container just for women, and it's an amazing group to really elevate our spirits and our souls to realize our pure abundance and our pure inner energy fields that emanate to the world. And then lastly, bluesoulmedia.com is where I do consulting with things like, you want to do a TED Talk. I've been the curator of one of the top TEDx conferences, TEDx events in the country at Berkeley for 12 years now. So, and I went to TED for 12 years before that or something like that. So I've done a lot of speaker coaching, so can certainly help with that, getting you either on a TED Talk or an appearance in a major media platform, podcast, CNN, Good Morning America, any of them. And then I also do something called Soul Alignment Strategies, where I'm bringing together my marketing, branding work, and the business go-to-market strategy business side with spirituality and consciousness. That's the thing I'm most excited about. And then lastly, definitely subscribe to our podcast. It's free, and we have some amazing speakers. We've had Marianne Williamson and Dr. Dawson Church and Dr. Evelyn Laszlo and Neil Donald Walsh, and some pretty big names in there, actually. So check that out. And if you want the video version of it, it's bluesoulsummit.com. We've had Lynn Twist, the founder of Pachamama, just major names, actually. Incredible, inspiring people who will blow your socks off.
What did
So
you
that's
say
the
the video
video.
connection was? Blue Soul Earth something for the video version?
Blue Soul Summit, bluesoulsummit.com without the HTTPS, because that's broken for some reason at the moment. So just bluesoulsummit.com. And then anchor.fm/Blue Soul Chats for our podcast. And it is free. And Dr. Jean Houston, she's already live. Who's going live? Oh, wait, Dr. Jean Houston is already live. She's amazing. Oh my God, she'll just blow you away. Try to watch the video of her, because she's like, she never ages. I don't know what it is. But who's going live in 4 days is Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor. She is incredible. She's the one whose TED Talk first went viral ever when my stroke of whatever. She had a stroke and lost the left side of her brain. Anyway, you have to watch that one, and it's free because it'll blow you away. She talks about whole brain living and how if we can get in touch with there's 2 parts of the right brain. And if we can learn how to navigate and play with them, we can get into that place that people get into with ayahuasca journeys and psychedelics without needing to go there, without the drugs. Anyway, just love her work. And then lastly, I know we have a lot going on. We have a book coming out in 5 weeks called Magdalene's Journey, and it's the story of Mary Magdalene's life and teachings. And there's a lot of Gnostic wisdom in there as well, some quantum science like scattered throughout. But it's really about the rise of the feminine and the need for rebalancing the world of the masculine and feminine right now. So magdalenesjourney.com, and you should be able to order it in about 6 weeks. I think I'm done. I know
It's
there
so
was a lot.
exciting. You're just a plethora of information and a plethora of fun if you've not hung out with her before. She's just everything. She's all that in a bag of chips or a bag of kale chips. So thank you. I'm so excited to re-listen to this because replays always get more. However, I did take 11 pages of notes. Um,
Wow.
I'm like, I love this. Okay, so thank you, and if anybody has any questions, you have her email, or I'll give it to you. The replays you'll have, and I'm gonna stop recording and talk to you after